Hello, and welcome to another video of Racing Rules Explained. Up until this point, we've discussed the 4 different right-of-way rules. If you haven't seen those videos yet, I recommend you review them prior to jumping into this section. Next, we are going to discuss limitations on right-of-way. These are additional rules that specify what can be done by a boat that has right-of-way. These rules don't change which boat has right-of-way, but they place restrictions and limitations on what a boat that has right-of-way can do. It's important to understand these rules because they are more complex. It's usually clear which boat has right-of-way. Disputes more often happen around the limitations on right-of-way. There are 4 different limitations on right-of-way. Avoiding contact, which says that a right-of-way boat must avoid collisions with a give-way boat. This is the subject of the video we are currently watching. Acquiring right-of-way, which applies for a moment after a boat acquires right-of-way, allowing the new give-way boat to react to the change in right-of-way. Changing course has 2 different limitations. One, which limits the rate at which a boat can change course, and the other prevents the right-of-way boat from changing course in such a way that would make a collision inevitable or be solely used to obtain a penalty. Finally, on same tack, proper course limits the right-of-way of a leeward boat so that acquiring right-of-way does not give her a guaranteed opportunity to pass. Let's explore each of these rules in more detail, starting with Rule 14, avoiding contact. This rule is quite long and has a couple of different parts to it. Let's break it down into more manageable pieces. If you would like to read the full racing rules, there is a link to the World Sailing website in the video description where you can download the racing rules document. The racing rules of sailing are designed both to ensure fair racing and prevent collisions. The racing rules define a right-of-way boat and a give-way boat for every situation where boats could come together. Rule 14 says that a boat shall avoid contact with another boat. Right-of-way boats must take action to avoid collisions, even though they should be entitled to sail wherever they please. In practice, if you are a right-of-way boat and the other boat does not give way, then what you must do is change course to avoid collision and hail protest to apply a penalty to her. There doesn't need to be a collision in order for a penalty to occur. It is best to make sure your turn is large enough so that it is clear you need it to take avoiding action. And hail protest, or if you're on a keelboat, raise your protest flag immediately after you finish turning. You'll see that Rule 14 applies to all boats, not just right-of-way boats. Other limitations on right-of-way specifically say the right-of-way boat in the rule, but this rule just says a boat, which means that it applies to all boats. It is important to note that the rule includes the clause, if reasonably possible. Sometimes it will not be possible to avoid a collision. For example, if taking avoiding action would cause you to collide with another boat or shore, or maybe you would need to execute a dangerous crash drive to avoid the collision. An important caveat is that the experience of the helmsperson is not relevant for deciding what is reasonable. If you are less experienced, the racing rules still require you to exercise the same level of care in avoiding collisions. The other case where it may not be reasonably possible to avoid a collision is when the give-way boat changes course sharply and causes the collision. Note that intentionally causing a collision is a violation of Rule 2, sportsmanship. This carries much higher penalties than breaking any other rule. I would like to jump quickly to Rule 44.1, a bonus rule for you. This rule states that if a boat caused injury or serious damage, then she must retire from the race. She cannot take an on-the-water penalty. Injury is something that happens to people, and damage is something that happens to boats. So any type of injury, no matter how minor, such as a small cut, requires a retirement from the race. However, only serious damage to the other boat would require a retirement. It's a good thing that the rules provide extra protection to sailors, and you should always take particular care to avoid injuring another sailor. Now, back to Rule 14. Now, there are two additional restrictions as part of Rule 14 that apply just to the right-of-way boat. The first is that she does not need to take avoiding action until it is clear that the other boat is not avoiding her. You should not take avoiding action as the right-of-way boat until it is necessary. A right-of-way boat that takes avoiding action can be confusing, as the other boat will not know what to expect next. And it may also cause confusion over who is the right-of-way boat, since right-of-way boats do not generally take avoiding action. I've seen situations where a right-of-way boat changes course very early to avoid a keep clear boat, and the keep clear boat happens to change course in the same direction, and they end up colliding with each other. If the right-of-way boat were simply to have held her course, there would have been no collision. It is best to take avoiding action when you still have a reasonable amount of time to do so, and you should hail protest or raise your protest flag as you take action. If a right-of-way boat needs to take avoiding action, then a penalty is applied to the give-way boat. There does not need to be a collision in order for a penalty to have occurred. Finally, the right-of-way boat will be exonerated from Rule 14 if only minor damage occurred and no injury occurs. I generally wouldn't count on this rule to get you out of a situation. You should always take avoiding action to prevent collisions. However, in the case that a minor collision occurs and there is no damage, the right-of-way boat will not be penalized. In the event that a collision occurs where there is any damage or any injury, the right-of-way boat will be disqualified from the race under Rule 14, and the give-way boat will be disqualified under the rule that she broke. That's all for Rule 14. In the next video, we're going to discuss acquiring right-of-way.